I'm making this video to help people understand the road I've been on from birth. I was born in a small town, Garden City. The hospital I was born in, the basement was below ground level. The day I was born, they had a heavy rainfall, much heavier than normal. And this was the early 60s. There was no backup generator. Power was knocked out. And so in our small little town, the hospital is right next to neighborhoods. People at the hospital and the fire department going door to door asking people for flashlights and candles to be able to do whatever work they need to be doing. I was taken out by candlelight. The when when I was born, they had used instruments, and both of my eyes, from what I understood, were bruised. I looked like a prize fighter who had two black eyes. And my dad, being a native of Belfast, made the joke he was born a fighter. About 7 years later, my father was killed in a car accident. The car that we had been bought previous to safety belts being in the car, and because they were not required, and they retrofitted cars with them afterwards by, all people had to do is go in and get one. Well, apparently, based on what I know, my father did not do that, and he was driving home from a work party, and he had a blowout on his tire, and he was killed instantly on Valentine's Day. My mother insisted the police take her to the scene of the accident, and while they were there, a gust of wind blew a piece of paper, blew something at her feet. She picked it up, and it was a Valentine's Day card from my father. And I believe this traumatized her to the point that she had a difficult time talking about the accident. Well, as a young man, as a boy, me and my father, we were like cross fingers. We did everything together. I did not have, we had moved a few times in my youth, and so I had not made friends at school. I was friendly with people, with the kids, but I just was never anywhere long enough to make real friends or to understand how to. Um, my dad, when I had homework, he would work with me. He would not do my homework for me. So there was a very strong bond. Um, for years, as a young man, I had no real mentors, no one to really guide me. And I always had this feeling that someone would take time out to show me the ways of the world. It never happened. My mom was a great provider and a parent, but she could not give me what I needed from father. That was a missing thing. There were other men in my life, positive role models, but nobody who became a mentor. She remarried when I was 16, and it was difficult transitioning into a complete family again. I had a lot of issues. I was kind of put to the wayside, not paid attention to, and in a few years I became, in order to be social and make friends, I started drinking. It had gotten out of control, and shortly before I decided to quit drinking, I was at my sister's wedding and I got so drunk that I passed out at the reception, the after party of the reception at the groom's home, groom parents' home. Um, Shortly after that happened, my sister announced that she was pregnant, and then that was like a real wake up call for me. I was I was 26 at the time, and I knew it wanted to change. So back then, counseling was just really started. Alcohol counseling was just getting started. Previous to that, you had to be admitted into a mental hospital, and the understanding of it, of recovery and overcoming addiction, was not what it is today. In a few months, I was able to, on my own, find a program where the state helped me with the cost because I was not making much money at the job I was at. And I entered into a program at a clinic near my home. I didn't have a car at the time. And I would ride my bike to my appointments. And I think they charged me anywhere from $10 to $18 per appointment. And about December, no, well, my sister came back in September of that year, '87, and I held the baby, and I had cut back my drinking significantly. She came to the house, I had a beer in my hand, and I think it was maybe my first drink, and I just, in my head, I go, I can't do this anymore. And that's when I really wore down. And then 2 days before Christmas, Mitch Albom wrote an article, my favorite hockey player who had had issues with alcohol and gotten himself into different troubles, did his first interview, Bob Herbert, and he discussed the struggles he had with it. Well, in many ways, because alcohol sometimes, long term alcoholism, you kind of are stuck at the age where you started drinking, which was, I was a teenager. I had teenage thinking, and I wanted to have a hero. And I loved the way Bob played hockey. And I said, "This is my guy." He, and for anyone who has a hero, you not only want to match him, you want to surpass them. I can't play hockey. I can't play sports at all. But the one thing I could do is work my sobriety. And in many ways, I did so. I ended up quitting the job I was at. I got a job working for Little Caesars as a manager. And at that time, Little Caesars owned the Red Wings. And I would hear a lot of scuttlebutt because it was really a family business back then, and you would hear all kinds of stuff that was going on with the Wings. And during my time there, I made friends with a guy who was a radio personality, who became a radio personality in Detroit, Sean Legion. And me and him and another worker would go back and forth about he was a Canadiens fan, so I would make fun of different Canadiens players. And because I was so entrenched as a Bob Probert fan, he would tease me about that, and it was more a thing of I never met him. I defended him totally. Well, about a year and a half into my working there, I was working at a store that was a research and development store. And during that time, I had my folks had asked me to move out. I moved in with my uncle. I was doing pretty well, and I was commuting to Detroit from Farmington Hills. And one night coming home, a gal she was on 8 Mile, and not a safe place in Detroit, not dangerous, but I just felt like this was something that I needed to do to help me grow as a person, to help her. And initially, because she didn't know who I was, she did not want to come into my car. It was November, one of those kind of cold, stick your bones kind of night. And because her car wasn't even giving her heat, I said, I turned my car on. I started to head for home, and I go, I can't do this. I pulled. She was right in front of a gas station. I pulled in, and I walked over to her car. I said, I know you don't know who I am. I know you may be afraid, but I'm going to stay at the gas station till your friend comes. If you feel comfortable enough to get into my car, I will let you sit in my car until your friend comes. Well, after a short time, she asked me if the offer was still good, and I said certainly. And I stayed with her for a few hours, and we talked about different things. And I had a Bob Probert jersey on. I'd just gotten off work, and I threw the jersey on. She started questioning me about that, and I told her, I'd read the article, and just everything had kind of fallen into place. And she said, well, he comes in here. She goes, if you stop by, give him my name. She gave me her name, and they'll let you come in, no cover. Well, I came in. Went in there about a week later, thinking, what the heck? And the Wings had played a game, and no more than probably 5 minutes from being there, uh, Bob Probert at Sheldon K came in, and she introduced me, and they offered to let me sit in the booth. And we had about a half an hour, 20 minutes to a half an hour. I was so totally thrilled to meet him. I had affinity for Sheldon too because I knew what he could be. I kind of, even then, because I was such a hockey nut, I kind of knew what had gone on with Graham James. So I was a fan of both of them because they're both overcoming things that I couldn't complete. In Bob, I could understand a little bit more. Sheldon, not as much, but I knew about being an underdog. And Bob asked me different things. He goes, "Why are you such a big fan?" And I explained to him, I love the way you play hockey, but you did the interview in the paper with Mitchell, and I'm trying to get, I'm sober. I've been sober about a year and a half, and he turned around and asked me my recovery date, and then he goes, "You know what mine is?" And it was 1 year and 1 day after mine. He goes, "And I'm gonna beat you." Uh, there, therein lies the ability to surpass your hero. So every time I encountered a difficult moment, I remembered he was gonna beat me, and I knew it was motivation. I knew that Bobby had things going on, but when I left that, I said, "I'm going to use it this way." And I did for many, many years. Uh, Years later, they did a video on CBC where Colin Campbell showed a video that he had done for Bob to try and help him clean himself up. And they did a shot from Bob's dad's grave. His date of death was my 21st birthday. Again, you know, looking at it, God, the way I looked at it is God put things in my way to make me look and appreciate what I had. And I do. But over the years, I lost touch. Uh, life overtook me, and sometimes you lose focus of what you want to do. And at the time when I met him, I said I wanted to work with young people and help them understand addiction and help them overcome it and avoid the things. And I have done that in my everyday life when I see someone struggling with something. I try to help them out the way no one did with me when I was younger. Sometimes it's met with gratitude, other times it's ignored. And my counselor, when I was in counseling, she put it in such a way as you're planting a seed. A person is either going to water it and nourish it, or they're just going to ignore it and they're not going to grow from it. And that, you cannot live your life for them, or you can only live for yourself. Well, I worked mostly in restaurants, and I think you get caught up in the mindset of work, and nothing outside of work takes hold. Well, in the last 10 years, knowing I'm getting closer to, and in the beginning, I worked for some people who helped me see that kindness and charity were a better thing. And about 7 years ago, Bob passed. I was working, and it just it shook me up, and I thought, my God, this guy gave me a gift. I have to do something to give it back. And I started working as a volunteer with Henry Ford with grief groups. When I lost my dad, I had no one to grieve with. And in my 5 years working with them, I was able to process through my grief and become a different what I believe a different person. Um, I I started volunteering with a couple different uh, recovery, you know, recovery groups. I'd sit down in meetings. I wouldn't actually get involved. In the past in the past year, my ability to walk has been compromised. I have something they call ataxia. I've been told that I need to go on disability, and I can still walk, but is at times just becomes more challenging. I nowhere walk as well as I once did, but I can walk. Um, I still want to be someone who can help other people. As long as I have a breath left in me, I will try to do that. You know, a few years ago I was put in Henry Ford bases of recovery, and everyone else came in their suit and dress or whatever. Me, my my three inspirations were my dad, Sylvester Stallone, because early in my recovery, a lot of the dialogue in the Rocky movies they're very positive, and it's about an underdog not giving up. And Bob Probert. The funny part about me, Bob in '89, about 8 years later, I got hired in a job at an ice arena. My first day on the job was a fan fest, but they rented the ice out to Bob, and I did not know this. My boss is walking me down, and he had played with the Wings in the minor leagues at the time Bob was there. And Bob comes over and he recognized me right away after 8 years. A guy who had met me one time. And maybe my story was stuck with him that much. At that point, I was 10 years sober, which is 20 years, almost 20 years ago. And my boss looked at me, his eyes got wide. Boss was very Christian, and I had to explain to him in the office later on what was going on, how I'd met Bob and whatnot. And I think it's hard for someone who has not been through some of that stuff. I know there are things that probably never be told that Bob did that were just really probably worse than anything. But in all my time, from the time Bob got drafted to the time he passed until now, my feeling for him remains the same. He's someone who changed my life. And in the time afterwards, Sheldon healed himself by looking at what had happened to him. And they had a flood in Calgary. He was out there helping people, and I thought, wow, that's awesome. And this is during about the time I got involved. I think it was about the time I got involved with Sandcastles with Henry Ford. And in since then, he's opened up a uh, center to help children who are victims of child abuse. He's spoken to Congress in the U.S. And like him as a player, even though his career not unfold probably the way he would have liked or the way I would have liked being a wrestling fan, I realized this man also is somebody who I can embrace. And even though Bob is gone and he can't do anything, and I met Bob's family, I met, I met all of his immediate family, really. His wife, his two daughters, his oldest two daughters, um, his mom, his brother, and I've been able to tell them my story. And I think part of it is me understanding the part about my dad calling me a fighter back when I was born. And every time I feel like giving up, just like Rocky before the first fight with Apollo, saying I can't do this, but going ahead and doing it anyway. I think that's the approach that most people have to face, no matter what their challenges are, whether it be disease or like cancer, or whether it be alcoholism, or whether it be a job or family. And you just have to understand that life is so much more complicated and difficult. And the quicker you understand it and work it in such a way that you're not working people, but you're working life, the better you will be and the more peace you'll have. And for the first 20 years of my recovery, it was hard because I really never told anybody any of the details of how people would make random decisions that just absolutely devastated me. And, sometimes it would be cutting my hours at a job or saying things that were offensive. And I had to relearn how I thought because initially when I quit drinking, I was someone who was less thoughtful, and every now and then I need that reminder. I like to think that I'm a good person, but I also believe I have room for growth. And I have no problem with someone telling me when I'm wrong. Because by pointing out where I'm wrong, maybe I can either ask questions or adjust my behavior to do so. This is who I am, and it's hard for me to ask for things. With my disability, I've been researching it. It's not something that a lot of things are not well known about it, but I've always been able to figure things out. And I've never been ill before, so I gotta believe that there has got to be something chemically that can at least enhance it. I know that there is no fountain of youth, there is no magic elixir, but if I can do something that will help me in the long term, before I pass people to help other people, I'm going to do so. I need to make this video because it's important to me.